Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior monarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, entertainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channel under the same name. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Come gather round the footlights, lads, and hear the old boards groan. A tale of ink and iron will of voices overblown. From mics and scripts to painted sails, we've traded shore for sea. The players will man the rigging soon. Aye, all hands, follow me. From Long John Shadow, Silver Grin to Jim with compass true. We speak the words, we wear the scars, we make the old world new. No gold without the work behind, no legend without sweat. A stage, a ship, a single breath. The course is not set yet. KLRN Radio, setting sail for Treasure Island, March 2026!
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of GoodPods. If you haven't heard of it yet, GoodPods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On GoodPods, you follow your friends and podcasters they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find GoodPods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
America's on the rails. What we're trying to change tonight. From the halls of power to Main Street lights, we're tracking the shifts, exposing the fights. Truth seekers rising in heartland flame. Ribs calling names and we're joining the game. No filters, no fear. We pull back the veil. When the system rattles, we refuse to pale. America off the rails. We wake up calls.
And happy Monday evening, everybody. Welcome in to America Off the Rails. I am your host, Rick Robinson. Usually we try to do this thing every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Last couple of weeks have been a bit rough. Only did an hour today on the Daily Show. I'm going to try to do an hour tonight. It's going to go until the voice comes out. Hopefully. I lasted about an hour earlier. I'm hoping I can do another hour. And then
I have most of tomorrow off.
other than the evening show where I have a panel with me. So I'm hoping to start getting things back to normal around here. Unfortunately, I have been fighting Le Flu. The Grand Gremlin brought it home from school, and I've been fighting it now for several days, weeks, feels like months. And I can't currently find my cough drops that I just had. Yay. Like, seriously, came in here prepared with cough drops, and now suddenly can't find them. Go figure. Good Lord. All right, so anyway. All right, so the premise for tonight's show is the following. If love is the answer, the left appears to have forgotten the question. Because I don't know about you, but I paid not a lick of attention to the Super Bowl last night. This is the first time in quite some time that I haven't paid any attention to it at all. Primarily because I still felt like crap. But on the other end, it was really because I don't like either really the Seahawks or the Patriots, so I didn't really care. I know one of my sisters is probably listening right now and is really pissed for me saying how much I dislike the Seahawks because that's her team. I used to live there, but when I lived there, the Seahawks sucked. It was kind of like going to watch the Mariners play. You didn't go to watch the Seahawks play. You went to watch whoever they were playing against. Same with the Mariners when I used to live in that area. So, yeah, I mean, granted, by all accounts, they were a great team this year. Everybody was complaining about New England's weak schedule. Everything else kind of reminded me of college football because I'm like, can they really have a weak schedule in a National Football League? But I guess they can. And it kind of showed last night because one team came to play and the other one really did not. So, the post Tom Brady era for the Patriots has not been a good thing. But one of the things that has been driving me crazy now for the last couple of weeks, and I've been trying to figure out a way to put it into words because of everything that we've been watching and everything that we've seen unfolding. Now, of course, there's been a break in the coverage because of the Savannah Guthrie kidnapping. I'm not really going to get into too much of that tonight other than to say that now that I'm cogent enough to be able to pay attention to it, I've been paying attention to it for the last couple of days as I got ready to spin back up and start trying to do news coverage and stuff full time. And I have to say, that whole thing just feels weird from the jump. As somebody that used to do that kind of work, this just feels weird from the jump to me. But maybe it's just me. I know that last I saw, the deadline for today had passed. There's been no indication whether the ransom has been paid. Savannah Guthrie, I think I accidentally said Savannah Guthrie a minute ago talking about the mom. But Savannah Guthrie made a plea today that was more, I guess, heartfelt and less scripted than the one that the family put out about a week ago. But the weirdest thing about all this for me is normally when dealing with a kidnapping, you get a ransom demand fairly quickly, and proof of life is given quite often, and there has been none. None. There was one ransom demand. There was not really any other contact. There's been no proof of life given that we know of. So none of this seems right to me. And I really hope I'm wrong because I really want this poor little old lady to be brought home safe and sound. But every fiber in my being is just saying there's something wrong in this scenario. But that's all I'm really going to say about that tonight because I don't really have that much prepared on it because, like I said, it hasn't been something that I've really wanted to talk about too much because of the bad taste that it's left in my mouth. But at the same time, with everything else that's been going on with ICE and everything else, again, if the left wants to talk about this from a position of love and how they're trying to love and protect their supposed neighbors, then why are you guys doing everything you can to protect the people that are hurting your actual neighbors? I'm going to get a little preachy tonight. I usually try not to do that on anything other than the Kingdom and Country show, but this is going to have to happen tonight because there are a lot of Bible verses that are being cherry picked to say, well, the Bible says you're supposed to love the immigrant. No. That's not actually that's that whole weird translation thing again. Like the Second Amendment talking about well regulated, and everybody not realizing that just means every able-bodied person should have access to a gun and be trained on how to use it is the actual English translation of the Second Amendment in modern language, but you can't tell that to a leftist because they come unglued. That whole you have to love the immigrant thing, that's people that are coming into the country either legally or have gotten your permission to pass through it and keep going.
Doesn't ever talk about people that just come in and start trying to take it over as the people that, well, you're supposed to love your neighbor. No, that's not what the Bible was talking about. The Bible was very specific. You are to love the immigrant, meaning the people that are coming here and following the laws of the new land that they are coming into, or the people that have permission from the leaders of the government or whatever to come through, to travel through, and to keep going. So half of the stuff that they keep yelling at you guys about, and a lot of you Christians that don't want to do your own research keep falling for, is a load of crap. They're browbeating you with a book they don't even believe in. That's the scariest part about most of this, is half the people that are quoting scripture to you don't even believe it in the first place. And yet you allow yourself to be given pause, to take a step back, to look around and go, is that real? No, that is not what that means. That has not ever been what that meant. And the other thing that I love to point out from everybody was, well, Jesus was an immigrant because he came from Egypt back into Judea. No, because Egypt was a Roman territory at the time. So that would have been like immigrating from Oklahoma to, say, California. Same. But again, you cannot have this kind of a discussion with a leftist. And the scariest thing about the left is they preach love, but when they say love, what they actually mean is conformity. Because that's what they preach to you all the time. You have to think exactly how I think, or you're the enemy. Now, there is a bit of this on the right. I'm not going to pretend there's not, but it is very, very widespread on the left, to the point where now you're seeing people that are just excommunicated from the party to continue the religious theme that they love to throw around. Look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Used to be a Democrat, not so much anymore. Tulsi Gabbard used to be a Democrat, not so much anymore. Donald Trump used to be a Democrat, not so much anymore. If you look at diehard conservatives, they'll still tell you that he is one. You know what? He might be. But at this point, the Republican Party is about where the Democratic Party was in the 90s. Because there has been some political shift, whether we want to believe there has been or not. And you may occasionally hear me mute, and I apologize for that. That's to try to keep from coughing in your ear while I get through the stuff that I want to talk about today. But that's my opening thought for today. If love is the answer, the left has forgotten the question, because they don't teach love. They teach conformity. Case in point, the Bad Bunny thing that all the leftists are, oh my God, this was amazing, and it was uniting, and it was about hope and love. You know what that was? That was a call for the rest of the Americas to unite. That's what that was. If you listen to the president of Mexico's response to the halftime show yesterday, which tells you who they were really trying to target, by the way, wasn't me and you. She basically said the quiet part out loud. This was proof that we in the Americas and all of the Americas need to find a way to come together. But there's the quiet part she didn't say out loud. Because if and when we do that, America won't be the big kid on the block anymore. This is what this has always been about. The reason they don't teach history anymore is because they don't want you to understand exactly how long there have been warring groups trying to take us out at the knees. Because it's been happening pretty much since our inception. And the funny thing is, if not for France during the Revolutionary War, we probably still would have won, to be honest, but would have taken a lot longer. But then the funny thing is, when France figured out that we were becoming a powerhouse, and it was knocking not only them down a peg, but then Britain down a peg as well, then all of a sudden, you had France, just a little less than 100 years later, trying to influence the Civil War in the North. You had Mexico trying to do the same in the South. If you don't realize that's what's happening today with different players, then you're not paying attention. Because most of the unrest that is happening in Minnesota today, most of the unrest that is trying to pop off in other places but hasn't been showing up as well because of the fact that there are law enforcement groups, even though they don't want to, that are still doing their job, which thankfully has started happening in Minnesota. It's all being funded by folks that have ties to the CCP. It's all being funded to folks that think socialism is the wave of the future. It's all being funded by folks who think communism is the way to go and that capitalism needs to go away. Hey, we have an M sighting. It's been a really quiet chat tonight, sir, so it may actually just be me and you because I didn't really announce this thing. But if you would be so kind as to spread out the feed, that would be awesome. And thank you for stopping in. But again, back to what we've been talking about, there is more and more evidence showing that a lot of the groups that are supposedly this grassroots, we hate everything because ICE sucks movement, are really people that are being funded by groups that hate America. Hey, we have an Al sighting too. I don't feel as alone now. Yay. But yeah, these folks are being funded by CCP groups. One of the ones that is the most prominent, and I don't remember the exact name of it right now because I don't have it in my notes in front of me, was the Socialist Liberation Party, or Party for Socialist Liberation, something like that. And they're the ones that are paying for all the signs and the vests and the masks and all these things. And of course, it comes out that the guy that's actually funding most of that is actually a U.S. expat who's now living in China because he's not very beloved around here and would face charges, most likely if he were in the country. Now, this is the new school, folks. This isn't even talking about Spooky Dude and Son of Spooky Dude, who have been doing this for decades. The thing about it is, and this is something that nobody wants to talk about, Son of Spooky Dude used to be a secret weapon in the West. We would turn him loose into places that we wanted to bring democracy to and watch him go to work and destabilize the region, and then we would try to come in and pick up the pieces, and hopefully by the time we were said and done, we had with us groups that liked us and wanted to work with us and wanted to espouse democracy and freedom. And now that he's done that pretty much everywhere that he can, he's now bringing all of those things home here and doing everything he can to destabilize our country for a very valid reason as far as he's concerned. The United States is the remaining stumbling block to bringing about the New World Order. And you might have noticed, if you've been paying attention, that the New World Order is the new hotness again. All the lefties are talking about it again. For the longest time, we can't say that. We can't say that. Shh, don't use that word. It freaks everybody out. Don't say it. Well, they're saying it again now, and they're saying it loudly and proudly all over the place. You just heard the Canadian Prime Minister just a few weeks ago in China talking about how this new trade agreement between China and Canada would usher in the New World Order. And I said it that way on purpose because dude had the Shat disease as far as the paws, really, really bad. Yes, I'm taking a page from Shatner's book himself, who now calls himself Will Shat because he signed a deal with Raisin Bran. Talk about just, leaning into your shtick and just being cool with it. I want to be that cool someday. I really do. But yeah, Sean, you're right. They are absolutely unafraid to say it now. And the reason they're unafraid to say it now is because so many people that are below a certain age level, not looking at anyone in particular, Zelda, typically love the idea of communism, which makes no sense to me. None. Because communism has failed everywhere it's been tried, and I know. But Rick, we haven't really tried communism yet. Not for real. This has been some weird hot... No. We have tried communism, and it has failed everywhere it's been tried. Hell, China is not even completely communist anymore. Neither is Russia. And they're still falling apart. A lot more than anybody over there wants us to know. I submit this to you today. China is in a lot more dire straits than anybody wants to admit and has been since COVID, because they lost a lot more of their population than they were willing to admit, because in order to admit that, they would have to admit that it started there, and they refused to do that. So, yeah, I mean, not to put too fine a point on all of this, but if communism is what the leftists think love is now, I want nothing to do with it. And this just, again, proves that the left most of the time has no freaking clue what it's talking about, and likely never will have any clue of what it's talking about. And the funny thing is, we're going to get into some of this stuff in a minute. I'm fixing to take a break. But what we're going to get into now is, not only have they forgotten the question when they start talking about love, half the time when they start getting the things that they want, then they suddenly realize, well, maybe we didn't really want that after all. Some of you might be wondering what I'm talking about here, and that is perfectly fine. When we come back, we will talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and take a break here real quick because I got to go figure out what I do with my cough drops. Let's see. That one's too long, so we're not going to do that one. You know what? It's not Friday, but I love this song, so we're playing it. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hopefully.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin, even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture smiles and being team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more over than quality plans. But when that bell rings, it's a holy sound. Feel like chains hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. Boss can have Monday. But Friday night's mine, I ain't giving it away. I earned this beer, I earned this pay, earned every sip I'm about to take. Thank God it's Friday, punching out alive. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit.
till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on to me. So raise 'em up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know.
Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen, and Zelda. Sometimes Friday is a state of mind, not a day of the week. And I didn't enjoy my Friday this past week, so I'm trying to enjoy Friday now. Because I thought I was I'm going to be honest, for about 5 minutes, I thought I was going to wind up having to go into the hospital. It just, nothing was working, and then all of a sudden everything started working all at once, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. Plenty of things to talk about, including confusing people in my chat because I'm playing a song about Friday on a Monday. But that's because, again, Friday's a state of mind. And Zelda, I did say hello to you. I made the comment that most of the people in your age demographic seem to think communism is a win. So, hello, how you doing? You need to do something about your peeps. So, a couple things that have happened today that I thought were kind of interesting because there's been a lot of Trump winning in the federal courts again, especially today. This is from Joseph, pardon me, Joseph Chalfant over at Town Hall. A federal court decided with the Trump administration after a lengthy battle to end the temporary protected status designation for Nepal, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem praised the court's decision to sunset the TPS designation, saying that the policy has been used by Democrats as a de facto amnesty for third world countries for years. Under the previous administration, temporary protective status was abused to allow violent terrorists, criminals, and national security threats into our nation, pretty much unabatedly so. Which is funny because now you're watching the left fall all over themselves because 70% of the people that Trump is rounding up don't even have any criminal charges. Maybe not here they don't, but have you seen what their records are from home? Not only that, but let's not forget the fact that they came into this country illegally, and despite what the left wants you to think, removing someone who has come into the country illegally after they have gone through all of their appeals processes, etc., only takes an administrative order, not a judicial warrant. That is one of the things the left is fighting really, really hard to change because it would make the removal of these people next to impossible because it would add so many more hoops to the equation. And the funny thing is, the left has been the one fomenting all of this angst and love your neighbor and all of this crap. And now, because Donald Trump's finally said, look, enough is enough. If you don't want us to keep sending thousands of extra folks into your cities, then you need to start working with us. Speaking to the folks in Minnesota, as well as the governor and the police chief in Minneapolis. And now all of a sudden, all these people that were putting up these de facto checkpoints and building walls and demanding to see papers, all the things that were, oh my God, ICE can't do this. That's Nazi. That's Gestapo tactics. But it's fine when they do it. But now they're pissed because now local law enforcement's tearing down all their checkpoints. I'm like, yeah, y'all can't do this. We can't let you do this. So yeah, there's been winning coming out all over the place. I know it hasn't been being talked about very much because everything has been gobbled up by the Guthrie kidnapping as far as most of the news oxygen. But there have been wins coming out everywhere for the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, not only did this win happen today, a Clinton-appointed judge said that California can kick rocks as far as The law that they tried to pass, saying that that ICE has to unmask themselves within the sovereign territory of California, because, and Califailure knew this already, there is this thing called the Supremacy Clause, and California can't tell federal agents what to do. Sorry about your luck. Gavin Newsom can't win for losing. Oh, so Clinton judge strikes down Newsom's edict banning masks for ICE agents. We've already talked about that bit. Trump admin cleans house, busts 50 plus suspected fugitive felons living in taxpayer-funded housing in just one Ohio city. So Operation Clean House has freed up funds for folks in Ohio that need help with housing. So this frees up housing for those without outstanding warrants. A law enforcement operation found that more than 50 fugitives with felony warrants were taking advantage of taxpayer funding housing in Columbus, Ohio. U.S. Marshals partnered with agents from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office on Operation Clean House, targeting suspects living in HUD housing. The warrants issued in the operation included rape, drug trafficking, endangering children, strangulation, and failure to register as a sex offender. U.S. Marshal Michael Black with the Southern District of Ohio said that HUD reached out to him to cooperate on the operation, which lasted 6 days. Every time we do this, we're making our community safer, one arrest at a time, Black said. The warrants issued in the operation included rape, drug trafficking, endangering children, strangulation, and again, failure to register as a sex offender. One of the houses we recovered, one of the houses we served a warrant in, we recovered an AK-47. There were some drugs recovered, Black said. You know, one individual that's wanted for felony strangulation, sex offenders, child abandonment, and numerous other violations. WCMH-TV was present at two of the arrests. One was a woman with felony warrants for weapons charges. The other was a woman with a warrant for probation violation for aggravated burglary, assault, and ID fraud. So something else that I didn't really get much of a chance to talk about this past week because of the fact that I wasn't feeling well. There has been a self-described Antifa member who was arrested after making threats against federal agents. This happened. The man allegedly referred to ICE as the Gestapo and murderers. The Department of Justice arrested a man for making threats against federal agents and cited his many posts on social media that called for violent resistance. Kyle Wagner, age 37, identified as a member of Antifa and was also calling for militant attacks on immigration and customs enforcement agents, according to a DOJ press release that was released on Thursday. And I quote, "If it has to be done at the barrel of a gun, then let us have a little bleeping fun." This man allegedly doxed and called for the murder of law enforcement officers, encouraged bloodshed in the streets, and proudly claimed affiliation with the terrorist organization Antifa before going on the run, according to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, as she released in an online statement. Dude, you talked an awful lot of shit, and you sounded really big and bad until you found out they were coming for you. Then you ran. Fucking pussy. Wagner allegedly made the threats from his accounts on Facebook and Instagram and called on his followers to forcibly confront, assault, impede, oppose, and resist federal officers, according to that same DOJ press release. He also referred to the agents as Gestapo and murderers. The release cites specific comments allegedly made by Wagner. "I've already bled for this city. I've already fought for this city. This is nothing new. We're ready this time. ICE, we're fucking coming for you," he allegedly wrote on January 6th. The next day, he wrote, "Anywhere we have an opportunity to get our hands on them, we need to put our hands on them," and told people to cripple the agents. And I quote, "We want you to know who they are. We will identify every single one of them and we will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. If it has to be done at the barrel of a gun, then let us have a little fucking fun," he said. He is said to have written. "This is where ICE has come to die," he added. The DOJ also alleges that Wagner doxed an individual by releasing their private information because they were supportive of ICE. The 31-page criminal complaint has numerous screenshots of his online comments. WCCO-TV obtained video of Wagner's arrest at his Minneapolis apartment. He was wearing a shirt that read, "I am Antifa," or "I'm Antifa." Now,
for everybody who keeps saying they're not doing enough, here's another story that you may not have heard much about because everything's been swallowed up by the Guthrie kidnapping. 10 members of a terrorist cell charged with attempted murder over ambush attacks on ICE facility have been arrested, according to the feds. Another person was charged with obstruction of justice. A terror attack on an ICE facility in Texas has led to attempted murder charges against 10 members of an Antifa terror cell, according to federal prosecutors. On the 4th of July, a local Texas officer was shot in the neck by anti-ICE activists just outside of the North Texas ICE facility in Alvarado near Fort Worth. On Tuesday, prosecutors released more information about the alleged terrorist who was arrested, or the terrorists who were arrested for their part in that plot. Police also found a flag reading "Resist Fascism, Fight Oligarchy," as well as masks, goggles, gloves, weapons, fireworks, flyers, and the thing that I love to find out that terrorists are getting a hold of, body armor. A total of 11 people were arrested, and of those, 10 were charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer. The 11th person is facing a charge of obstruction of justice. Prosecutors said the coordinated attack on the ICE facility involved 10 to 12 people clothed in black militaristic garb and began at about 10:30 p.m. Members of the group fired off fireworks and vandalized vehicles at the facility in an apparent attempt to lure the officers out of the building. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush, said acting U.S. Attorney Nancy Larson. 2 unarmed officers walked out to talk to the group, and an officer with the Alvarado Police Department also responded. Why the hell would unarmed people... unarmed? You sent out Barney Fifes, really? The officer was shot in the neck by someone in the woods, and another person fired between 20 and 30 rounds at the ICE officers. The group members fled from the scene but were apprehended later by officers. They were found with guns and a Kevlar vest, according to law enforcement. Yay, the officer who was shot is expected to survive. The suspects face up to 10 years in prison if convicted. That is about 90 years too few, in my opinion. Anyway, but yeah, so for everybody who keeps saying they're not doing anything, they are. Trust me, they are. And we're hearing about it more and more, but you have to be willing to go look for it, because the regular media folks aren't going to tell you about what Pam Bondi is doing right or what Kash Patel's doing right. And if you don't believe me that there's a whole laundry list of things they've done right, then you just need to go listen to one of the last episodes of America Off the Rails I put out, because I did an entire hour-long deep dive on everything the FBI has accomplished between 25 and 26. Oh, sorry, I'm getting caught up with the chat because I told Z she needed to do something about her people. And listen, all I can do is lead the horse to water. I can't make them drink. Communism is full of ... not bright people. Anyway, all right. So yeah, look, there have been winds coming in from all over the place if you bother to pay attention. We've already talked about the immigration win as far as for the TPS status for some folks. The California unmasking effort's been blocked by a judge. Then we've got some other just kind of fun stuff because it is now come to everyone's attention that Jasmine Crockett might be running the most incompetent campaign in history. For those of us who lived through the Kami Lama campaign, that could be an interesting take. But Crockett has apparently had a fundraising surge. We're going to get into some of this. So a new story from Not Us has emerged that has shed light on the inner workings of Jasmine Crockett's bid for Senate. And it's hard to understand how much of a dumpster fire this is turning out to be. We are just 22 days out from the Texas primaries, and yet Crockett still hasn't openly designated a campaign manager, baffling Democratic strategists. Crockett's campaign has rebuffed critics, claiming that she isn't running a traditional campaign and that any criticism about her choices is just meaningless chatter in Washington. Democrat officials reportedly have no idea who is actually running the show
Oh my God. So it really is Kami Lama 2.5. Oof. Anyway. So Crockett is seemingly relying almost entirely on her name recognition with primary voters. Not Us reports that Tallarico has outspent Crockett 19-1 in ad buys, and Crockett is yet to make even one broadcast ad. Again, Crockett's team and supporters have dismissed any criticisms leveled at her campaign, and even went as far as to suggest that ads won't work for Crockett because she's a black woman. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to stop right there. So, Slavey Crockett is playing the race card and saying it won't do her any good to buy any ads because they won't work because she's a black woman. Lots of black folks have been elected to office and they've used ad buys to get her done, Miss Crockett. So I'm not exactly sure where that's coming from. So she has a website, in case you're wondering. She is boasting opioid substance abuse and chemical dependency treatment and recovery centers, which, as far as I know, she's done none of those things. Requiring all major insurance providers to include full mental health care coverage, including prescription medications and therapies. Write out your bullet points here. Anything from a sentence to a paragraph works. Providing students student debt relief incentives for providers in high need fields and enhanced incentives for those who practice in certain areas. So again, the Texas primary is March 3rd. March 3rd. And she's done next to nothing. Which makes me a little sad because I was kind of hoping we'd at least, get to make fun of her through the general election, but I don't think it's going to happen. She doesn't seem to, I hate to say this about a black woman because somebody's going to call me racist, but she doesn't seem to know her ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to how to make a campaign work. How the hell did she get elected to Congress? All right, so we got to talk about this because this is in the category of, but they told us things like this could never happen. This is from our friends over at Red State. This is from Jennifer Van Laer. So a Pakistani citizen living in Pakistan, voted in California's 2020 election. And here's the rest of the story. Over the weekend, a video clip posted by RNC Research of the Sheriff of San Juan County, by RNC Research of the Sheriff of San Juan County, saying you're able to register and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, and stating a Pakistani citizen voted in a California election went viral. So just for fun, let's watch the clip, because that way you guys don't hear me talking about it. You can hear them. So hang on. Now, granted, I think this is probably more of like the California state election, but since it was 2020, pretty sure they probably got the full ballot. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? Anybody? Bueller? But here comes the clip right about now.
The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. You're able to register even and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. I think we have some evidence. Two or three other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
The online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register and vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying thank you for registering to vote. And there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote. So we found that a little bit problematic.
We found that a little problematic. That's what he said. We found that a little problematic.
So somebody from Pakistan can go to California's website, click a box that says, everything I'm telling you is true, and they get to vote in California elections. Are you starting to understand why being able to prove your identification and your citizenship status is such an important part of fixing our election system? Because the left's going to tell you that if you want voter ID, you hate democracy. If you want voter ID, you hate black people. If you want voter ID, you hate brown people. Because again, with the left, everything is always about love. But again, as they're preaching love, I keep asking myself, have they forgotten if love is the answer to all of their questions, have they forgotten what their questions were? Because it doesn't make any sense. Because if you truly love America, if you truly love democracy, which let's put that to bed, we're not actually a democracy, we're a republic. There is a vast difference between a democracy and a republic. But just for the ease of explanation, let's use their word for it, because they supposedly love democracy, but they only love democracy if it's broken. They only love democracy if everybody gets a say. And by everybody getting a say, this goes all the way back to that Bad Bunny thing again, where they're marching with the American flag and the Mexican flag and the Brazilian flag and pretty much every flag within the Americas. And if you listen to the words, and granted, you have to if you don't speak Spanish, you need to have somebody translate them to you. But I'm going to tell you the part where they're marching with the flags, what they are talking about is every country that is represented by one of those flags finding a way to come together, which sounds awesome on paper because it's kumbaya, tree-hugging hippie crap. But the simple fact of the matter is most of these countries don't have the same belief systems that you and I have. They don't believe in freedom the way that you and I believe in it. So if we did try to merge with them, there would be all kinds of problems. And you're starting to see this come out from people that are just being stupid. You're seeing this from people that are just being stupid over and over and over again. And you've seen it from Bad Bunny, a guy who is technically an American citizen, saying that he was suspending all of his music stops in America because he was afraid of ICE. Why are you afraid of ICE? You're an American citizen. Are you admitting that your concerts bring out people that shouldn't be here? Because that's kind of sounding like what you're admitting. Just pointing that out. But this all goes back to the same problem. These same people, remember, and I haven't really even touched on this yet, but as we get ready to shut things down for the night, because we got to get ready for Sean here in a couple minutes. But as we get ready to move things along, we also need to talk about the fact that we are a few days away from yet another government shutdown. The left has put together a Christmas list of the things that they want from this government shutdown. And what they're getting instead, what they've gotten instead so far is body cams. But now they've decided that maybe the body cams were a bad idea. Because they've realized, well, what if ICE uses the body cam footage to track down the people that are protesting? Well, you were the one screaming and yelling that everybody needed body cams. So what happened? You're getting what you wanted. Why are you suddenly upset about it? Because they weren't expecting the right to give them anything. That's why. They thought they were going to be able to scream and yell and him and haw. And the right just said, okay, body cams, good idea. We should do that. You know what? I'm surprised they didn't have them already. When the story broke about the ICE agent that was holding his cell phone, every story I saw talked about that being body cam footage because everybody assumed that it was. And if he hadn't been having to hold a phone because he'd already been assaulted by a vehicle, then there may have been a slightly different ending to that. I really don't know. But I do know this was the same guy who was already drugged 30, 40 feet by a car, who was in a very similar situation just a couple weeks later. And, we haven't even really talked about the Alex Purdy thing anymore now that all the other stuff's come out, the video footage of him, trying to kick the crap out of an ICE car and trying to coax them out of it. Again, if Minneapolis PD had been there to do their job, he probably would have at least been given a desk ticket, which would have automatically put a freeze on his concealed carry permit. But since they weren't there, we'll never know.
So for everybody who's blaming ICE and everybody who's blaming CBP, you're blaming the wrong people. These people don't want to be doing this any more than you want them to be doing this. You've given them no choice. They are enforcing the laws as written. Laws that have been on the books for longer than you and I have been alive. And they've been on the books for a reason. Nobody talks about this part either, because we have to let them in because this proves how much we love everyone. No, there have been several points throughout our history where we have completely shut down immigration. And this, in my opinion, should be another one. And we're getting close to getting to that point. Because we've well surpassed the tipping point. With all of the fraud that is being uncovered and all the people that have been shown, and it's anecdotal evidence, Rick. It's only one or two people here and there that are voting in our elections. Yeah, that we know about. These are the ones that we can find. If there's one or two there, I guarantee you there are more. If there's fraud in the scale on the scale that has been uncovered in Minneapolis and Minnesota, then I guarantee you there's more everywhere else. That is the one thing Tim Walz said that wasn't entirely inaccurate when he said every state has this problem. The problem is throwing the other 49 states under the bus doesn't really help you, because you've been the guy in charge in Minnesota now for how long? And you knew about this. How do we know they knew? Because Minnesota played a big part in the DNC for a very long time. And it's not a big enough state to be able to pull the kind of clout that has been pulling, except for the fact that they were basically de facto funding everything behind the scenes for the DNC. This is why the left is panicking right now, because a lot of their ATM machines are being gobbled up. A lot of their quiet slush fundy fundraising ideas that they've had going for forever are being uncovered. There are now more and more people that are basically finding out that their cards have been charged thousands of dollars more than they ever agreed to give to the DNC. There are now people that are finding out about billions of dollars that have been misplaced. We have, through Ilhan Omar, no less, somebody who used to be worth less than $10,000 when she first started running for office that is now a multimillionaire. A multimillionaire. It hasn't been in office that long. Her husband, I don't know who he's laundering money for, but I guarantee you he's laundering money. There is no other explanation for what's happening with those folks and the amount of money that they have coming in from everywhere. There's just none. It's not even possible for them to be. I mean, we're talking about businesses that in 2020 were worth $10,000, $15,000. By 2025, they were worth millions. And now 2026, they're worth even more. How does that happen in a 4-year span? Especially when, first of all, the winery that had no web presence, as far as I know, there was really no way to buy any of the product. And the only proof that I could ever find that there ever was any type of a product for sale was a $7 bottle of wine. $7 bottle of wine. Can you imagine how many thousands of those bottles would have had? How many millions of those bottles would have to be sold for that company to be worth the amount that it's currently worth on paper? And how can a consulting firm with no clients be bringing in millions of dollars a year? These people tell you how terrible America is because they're stealing it blind. They don't want you to be proud of the country. Because how much easier is it when you find out that the politicians are stealing from the country if you think the country's corrupt in the first place? And if you don't think that that is a prevailing thought process for a lot of young people today, I want to remind you of something that I heard on Jesse Waters today when Johnny was doing his man on the street interviews. He specifically kept asking people, is it all right to rob people? Because one of the questions that came up was, people talking about different places where they had gotten robbed. So we started asking, well, is it all right to rob people in certain circumstances? One 20-something said, well, if you're trying to steal bread or something, I don't really have a problem with that. Another one a few seconds later said, if it's a multi-million-dollar corporation, sure.
because they've been made into the bad guys. And ladies and gentlemen, like it or not, that is one of the biggest communist talking points out there, is the rich are the enemy. The rich aren't the enemy. You should be talking to the rich. You should be sitting with the rich. Find ways to get invited to their tables and listen to what they do and watch what they do. Because 9 times out of 10, they aren't crooked. They're not evil. They just understand the system better than you do. But you've been told that you have to hate them because how they got here is unfair. You know, the people that keep getting here with unfair advantage are politicians. Now that's going to have to be a balancing act because we have to figure out, you know, it's really easy to say, well, politicians shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks and they shouldn't be allowed to do this and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Well, so you don't want politicians having any say in how our country makes money? Hey, we have a rooster sighting. Right. Rooster dropping in with a last-minute truth bomb. When God had Moses jot down those 10 commandments, the one about theft didn't specify bread. So, look, we're just about out of time, but I do want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out in the chat tonight. Don't forget, here in just a couple minutes, we'll be heading over into SHR Media territory with our good friend Sean Lewis, who was hanging out in the chat with us earlier as well. And I just want to take a moment to thank everybody. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks. I have missed a lot of my shows because I didn't have a voice. As you can tell, I still really don't, but I'm being stubborn about it. Slower than I normally am, but I am trying to start to put some work in. Tomorrow night we should have the newest one, Men Explained Poorly, and then I'm hoping to get some writing done tomorrow. But every time I say that, I tend to jinx myself. Anyway, my name is Rick Robinson. This has been my show, and don't forget, we're heading over into SHR Media territory for the transplanted Boston Bastard who's now hanging out in Califailure. Coming up here in just a couple minutes on KLRN Radio, so stay tuned. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the SHR Media Network. This is the Edge of Liberty. It is the 9th of February, 2026. Thank you so much for being here. It's an exciting night for SHR. Not going to lie. For those who don't know, maybe some who don't care. We officially crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which was a huge goal for us for a while, and we thank every one of you. Tonight, we're going to talk about essentially how the internet has made everybody stupid. And I'm going to use examples from everything from the Epstein files and how that's dumb or shown how people are dumb. The DNI cover up with Tulsi Gabbard. How Newsom plays his social media, and all of it is designed around the fact that they know people are not going to put the effort in to look for an answer, or for facts, or look beyond just stupid memes they put up, and you see it all the time. You see how many things get spam reposted, spam shared. There's absolutely no facts on it. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're also going to talk about Japan. A lot going on in Japan. Obviously, we're all waiting to hear what's going on with Iran. We're going to talk about that. And Italy, but not necessarily for the Olympics, which, I know the Olympics is going on. But first, let's get into the BS, if you will. And I saw this post. I forget which lawmaker it was. And she just overtly said, well, Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files 38,000 times, 37,000 times, whatever the number was. And I kind of laughed at that because I wrote
5, 4, 3, 2
Sunday on SHI Media, where I said, yes, he actually was mentioned that many times, but why don't you provide some context? Because, and I'm going to pull the numbers up right now. What you don't realize is he had 2 subscriptions to the Trump campaign addresses. Oh, that must mean he really likes Trump. No. He just was staying in the loop because he's Jeffrey Epstein, and as weird, gross, disgusting of a human being that he was, he also knew a lot of big people and paid attention to the markets. So a vast majority of the quote-unquote mention of Trump in the Epstein files so far, the ones we have so far, fully want them to release it all. I have zero issue with that. I don't want anyone protected. In this. But let's be realistic about what's being shared and told. And this is, like I said, this is politicians do this on both sides of the aisle too. You have a couple out there that are stuff, but you have a lot of them that will spam share stuff or say something like that. Because I'm looking for the article, because I have a technical issue going on my end with my little companion tablet tablets on that I keep all my notes on. So I have to work around that. Here we go. So two of the you want to see the Carfax, you go to shrmedia.com. I mean, you can look this up. I put all my sources in there, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I sorted this all out. You can search the articles called The Signal and the Noise. So 95% of the mentions of Trump in the Epstein file are because Epstein or one of his staffers, whoever, subscribed to contact@victorydonaldtrump.com or info@donaldtrump.com. So they were getting email blasts galore. And I use this website, and I'm going to put it up for you right now because I think that you should go there. I think that you should do the work as well. It's not just me. The website is called jmail.world. It's right there, or it's about to be right there on the screen. There it is, right there on the screen. It's hard to see, I know, in this mode, but it's there. It's called jmail.world. And what they've done is they've put every Epstein file in it and matched Google Gmail style. So if you're familiar with Gmail, you'll know how to work this, and you can go through it all. So I took this, cross-referenced it using two different AIs. I won't say which ones because they're not paying me, but you know both of them. One of them is rhymes with hat CCCP, and the other one is a person in June's astrological sign. And it's made by a company that rhymes with Oogle. And I made them fight each other a little bit. And this was my method for it is, hey, pull all of these emails side by side. I was doing this from the files and tell me how many times or tell me essentially to group it down. And it did. And I said, okay, how many times were from this email blast? And 95% of them were. And I said, okay, so outside the email blast, rhymes with Oogle. Yes. Reverse in the chat room. And I said, after that, I want you to show me how many times Epstein and other people were just discussing Trump. Not that Trump was directly outside of what happened at Mar-a-Lago, but emails in which they're talking about him as a president. They're talking about him, how the markets are being affected by him, yada, yada, yada. And that made up 1,000 emails right there, where it had nothing to do with any sort of activity other than how he affected the market, how he was affecting policy, et cetera, et cetera. Then you had another group of emails, majority of them by Larry Summers and Michael Wolff, both of them Trump haters at that point, where they were talking about him personally, but they were just talking about him essentially. They didn't like him, and they were just complaining about him. A lot like the friend that was cut out of the friend group, right? But there was nothing specific. Now, remember, Epstein was asked an email by Michael Wolff, I believe it was. Hey, and this was when Trump was being elected the first time. If you have anything juicy on Trump, now's the time to get it out. And Epstein said, oh, yeah, no, I have it, and then never produced it. And then you have 25 emails. 25 emails discussing Trump, Epstein being kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. The most damning thing in there is Epstein at one point gets quoted just saying, yeah, I guess he found out about the girls. And that was it. There was nothing in there that says, oh, he found out about the girls and he let me keep going. No, he was pissed because he said Trump said he asked me to resign. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Elaine to stop. So you also have to remember the context. Way back when, this is way back before anyone had Google with it. We did have the 24-hour news cycle, but it wasn't what it was today. The internet still wasn't going crazy. It was a very less information transfer type of time. So is it possible that Trump knew something about what he was into? Yeah. Did he think that maybe he just hung around with, cheerleaders and shit? Maybe. And he was just bringing a lot of girls in and out of Mar-a-Lago and that was causing a problem? Perhaps. I don't know. I have no problem if you put Trump under oath to answer at this time. Ghislaine Maxwell pled the fifth today. So that's interesting because she could have blasted Trump, but she's also, you also had Miss Giuffre say that Trump never did anything inappropriate. So yeah, so as you break this down, the most quote unquote suspect emails. There's about a dozen of them. And there still was nothing that Trump was doing anything illegal. It was just that he booted him out of Mar-a-Lago and Epstein was pissed about it. That's what it really comes down to. And he threw out some allegations. Look, Epstein had every opportunity to throw Trump under the bus. The DOJ under Biden had every opportunity to throw him under the bus. The one you see right now that's not even part of the Epstein files is the allegation from 1994, 32 years ago. And they're presenting this like this is fresh information, where somebody called the open line Epstein line back in, what was it, 2020 something, 2020. The tip line was in 2020 and said that Trump did some inappropriate things. The FBI at that time followed it up and again followed it up and found out that not only was it not credible, but the woman who made the allegation has had numerous cases like this where she's tried to sue other people. She had a history of mental illness, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the one they keep trying to say is in the files, but it's not actually in the Epstein files. This came in an open line that anybody in the country could have called. But yet, you have politicians today, oh, he's mentioned 38,000 times. Well, yeah, because of an email blast. Like that's because he was signed up for 2 emails that sent out constant emails to campaign subscribers. So you break that down. Look, you can go do it yourself. You go to shrmedia.com. I have a link to that Jmail. You can use AI. You can figure it out because nobody's going to go through 38,000 emails by hand, which is why I used 2 separate ones and they both kept producing the same results. And I posted it all because this is what the internet has done to people. We've become so tribalistic that when something's presented to you with evidence, you don't want to hear it. And then the bots come out. We know Iran has unleashed a ton of bots over the last couple of weeks. That's been proven numerous times. So there's a lot of people from foreign countries making claims, just trying to sow dissonance within this country, just trying to play on the emotions that you get in this country. But yeah, you have politicians making these allegations and they're intentionally leaving out the facts. The facts is if you drill it down, there's nothing in there. There's no there. As we've heard in the past, it's a nothing burger. Because if it wasn't a nothing burger, if Trump was truly in the Epstein files, we all would have known by now. You've had numerous other people say that when they've encountered Trump at Mar-a-Lago, he didn't cause them any problems. Yeah, Trump had a weird dating history. He had a couple of divorces. He did some things that most people wouldn't do. Okay. But that doesn't mean he's done something illegal. And that doesn't mean he was a part of this. And remember, Epstein was flying when Epstein, the Lolita Express, as they call it, when all of that was at its peak, it was under the Clinton administration. It wasn't under Obama. And nobody was talking about this back then at all. It was not being talked about. It wasn't big news. When he was arrested in Florida, it was a local news story because of what it was, but it wasn't like a national news story. Nobody knew who Jeffrey Epstein was for the rich people who he was working with. And even then there was an FBI report that was AP found that wasn't put out by the FBI. Like it wasn't like, hey, we're making this all public. But the FBI said, yeah, we never had enough to really criminally charge him with what's being alleged, meaning Epstein. Does that mean Epstein wasn't a POS? No, absolutely. He was a piece of shit. But the problem is we're not following evidence in the world anymore. We're not looking for facts. We're looking for outrage. It's like a drug on the internet now. Okay. And people love to tap that vein, man. And it blows me away what people will accept as a reality without ever turning their brain on. I'm going to go to the next step. This is another one that happened this week. This was the whole DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. The Guardian came out and said, hey, Tulsi Gabbard was hiding stuff, that somebody in Iran made a phone call to somebody in the higher power of Trump's inner circle. And this needs to be investigated. Well, she turned it over to the Inspector General. The Inspector General said, yeah, there's nothing there that we need to act on. There's not enough credible evidence, or whatever they say. Then they turn around and they blasted this out, because I always tell you, they start shooting the most anti-aircraft weapons at the planes that are the most threatening. And all of a sudden, now it's Tulsi, because the election stuff is going on. So they put this out and they're acting like she sidestepped it. She dumped it. She didn't. She put it over to the Office of Inspector General, which is what she's supposed to do. By the way, the Office of Inspector General, who investigated this, was appointed by Biden. And this goes back to the 2019 whistleblowing bullshit. It's the same idea that you leak a bomb, you scream that it's a cover-up, you make all of these headlines, and then you find out it's completely not true. So last week they made that claim. Then on the 7th of February, 2 days ago, The Guardian was forced to amend the story. It turns out that the intercept that was being discussed this entire time was two foreign nationals gossiping about someone they think was close to Trump. So it came out. And of course, the media, the left, they all ran with it, saying, hey, somebody close to Trump is talking to the Iranians. Now, by the way, it is entirely possible. Thank you very much, Philip, for subscribing. It is entirely possible that Iran was calling somebody in Trump's administration trying to cut a backroom deal. That was my first thought when this story came out. I was like, oh no, maybe somebody over there is trying to save their own ass. And it does happen. Stuff like that does happen. If somebody in the higher power over in Iran knows what's coming and they're like, oh, I need to change this ASAP, then they're going to make that call. But that's not what happened. By the way, the Office of Inspector General Inspector her name is Tamara Johnson. And on June 6, 2025, she found the whistleblower complaint not credible. But you would think today, if you're looking at media, just like The Guardian did, if you're looking at social media, how quickly people just absolutely hit that spam reset button or repost button. It goes to show you that nobody's going to take the time. And the left knows this. They use the media inappropriately and social media inappropriately. And by that, I mean, they absolutely know how to throw something out so it looks bigger than it is. They know it's not big, and then they pull it back. But they pull it back quietly, or they don't say anything at all. And you're going to see that when we talk about the SAVE Act here after the break. And I got one more story. I'm up against the break right now. And then I'll come back. I'll wrap up this section. We'll go into the SAVE Act and how that's been being misrepresented incredibly as well. You're listening and watching the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for being here. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out greatly. We did have a wonderful milestone this evening. We crossed over that 1,000 subscriber mark. So we thank each and every one of you who subscribed and has supported us for the years that we've been doing this. We're gonna release some information about that and just do a show about that here in the next coming week. But it's huge for us, and we really appreciate everybody's support because it's been pretty amazing. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I will finish this up, and we'll move on into the next segment right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp edge. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality. We fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch the Reaver in action. He is here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing is for sure, he always tells it like it is. The Reaver of Common Sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Shout out to Thomas Jordan, I think it is, who's keeping our our viewership up. So thank you for being here, Thomas. I really appreciate you being part of the show. So to continue on with this conversation, there was another incident like this weekend, or incident, that sounds way more important than it really is, but there was another example this weekend by Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's press office, which if you've ever followed that account, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Gavin Newsom's press office was responding to an allegation by gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton that illegals are getting free health care in California, and they're actually living in Mexico and then coming across and getting care and then going back into Mexico. And Gavin Newsom just said this, and this is immediately how you know there's more to the story. Gavin Newsom put this out where he said, "This is false. In order to be eligible for enroll in Medi-Cal, you must be a California resident, which has one of the many qualifications." And then he just puts two links to the plan. And I said, you know, that's kind of funny, except one of those is just to prove that you have a residence here. Well, to do that, all you need is a driver's license. So I started to dig into it a little bit. And again, you can go over to shrmedia.com, and I wrote the article on Sunday. All the links are in there if you want to do the work yourself. Most of you won't, who disagree with me, and I know that. But I started to dig into it, and yes, on face value, if you click on one of those links, you can see that it's not allowed. It's not that it's stopped. It's just not allowed. But if you dig into it, you start looking at, first of all you really need is a driver's license with a California address. And I'll tell you right now, they have what's called the PARIS system in California. The PARIS system is just a computer system where they can check addresses to make sure that 54 people aren't using the same address in Fresno to sign up for benefits. However, if you have an AB 60 license, which you are absolutely allowed to get in California if you're illegal, that bypasses the PARIS system. So you no longer pop up as being at one of those addresses. You immediately go into a different shuffle. What is AB 60? AB 60 is the license that you get if you're illegal, if you can't get actual residential driver's license. So then the other thing that they said is, oh, well, we have fraud detection in California and, we blah, 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 blah. So I started looking it up. California has 300 investigators plus 250 staff. That's on the high end. That's 550 people who are responsible for investigating approximately 15 million members of the people that are on Medi-Cal. So even if you do commit fraud, it's now a numbers game before you get sought. Once again, Gavin Newsom, here's my quick answer. Oh, you can't get it because it's illegal. We say it right here on the thing. But then they actually provide the mechanism to sidestep it, and then there's no enforcement for those who don't. And again, it's in the article. You can go look it up. You can go verify it yourself, but I know most of you won't. And then the other thing Newsom loves to tie in, and I'm picking on Newsom because he deserves it. I have two reasons to pick on him here. He loves to talk about California being the fourth largest economy. Oh, we give more money to DC than anyone else, blah, 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 blah. Well, first and foremost, out of the $530 billion in federal taxes that we pay in California to the federal government, what is that? Where's my response for that? I got it right here. $107 billion subsidy comes right back to cover Medi-Cal. $107 billion. When you break down per capita for California versus the rest of the country, the average California contributes $20,000, $20,500 roughly in taxes to the federal government, while the return is only $13,000. So there's a $7,000 gap. I apologize. I was reading the wrong line for a second. But when you start breaking that down compared to other states are paying more per capita than California are, the individual. So even that argument's thrown out the window. And what's even more amazing about that is that doesn't include all of the other tax money that California gets from DC for roads, public safety, all this other stuff. So what Newsom did here is he ignored all of the other smoke. It was just, I'm just going to put up these two links, and then his press office is going to retweet it and say, oh, this is false. But it's clearly very, very easy in California to get a driver's license. By the way, to get signed up for emergency Medi-Cal, all you have to say is, if you go to the hospital and you're sick in California, all you have to say is, I intend on staying in California and I need treatment. And they'll put you on for emergency Medi-Cal right there. So that visit is paid for by taxpayer dollars. And I apologize because I had one more point to make on that. Maybe I didn't. Maybe that was it. It happens. But if you want to go, it's on shrmedia.com. All of the links are there. You could do the homework yourself. It's not that hard to do. And there was one more thing that Newsom put out. Oh, here it is. Newsom put out earlier today that 30,000 people, we did a poll in California, 30,000 people said, what's his name should be fired from the Trump administration. Steve, I can't think of his last name right now. It's not really important. The one nobody likes. I legitimately, Miller should be fired. And I said, okay, first and foremost, if you're doing a poll in the state of California where you have 10.5 million Democrats registered in this state, and you can't get more than 30,000 to agree on that, that's not really the flex that you think it is. It's not a flex at all. The numbers are actually kind of shitty if you think about it. But moving on. So, like I said, we talked about how quickly people just accept things at face value. And they will absolutely not look into anything. And it's sad. This is what the internet has done. We've expect every answer in 3, 4, 5 seconds on the internet now. Nobody wants to read. Nobody wants to do some sort of critical thinking to look beyond what the headline is or what this friggin' politician this week posted. So now we go to the SAVE Act. And the SAVE Act has been the same thing. Jersey Joe talked about this earlier, but I agree. They're talking about the SAVE Act like all of a sudden nobody of color would be able to vote. which is a complete lie. As we played last week, CNN polled themselves. 70 to 80% of this country is for voter ID. By the way, the Save Act passed the House today. It's going over the Senate, where Chuck Schumer, who's fighting for his life right now politically, says, oh, it's dead on arrival. Well, the problem is Chuck Schumer's calling it Jim Crow 2.0. And as Joe pointed out earlier, that's just to get an emotional response. It's not. And when you have 70% of Americans agreeing on one policy or topic from both sides of the aisle, also Black and Hispanic approval, very high as well in the 60s and 70s, you're losing this argument against the people of this nation. And I talked about it last week. Why is voting such a big deal? It needs to be one of the most protected rights we have, because that's how we decide what goes on in the future. Then you had Jamie Raskin. This was, I actually have a video clip of this, because Chuck Schumer calling it Jim Crow 2.0. We've heard that 150 times. But Chuck Schumer, Jamie Raskin, Jamie Foreskin, as I like to call him, has decided he's going to drop a new angle to this. And it was something that was so unbelievably stupid. And he said it out loud. It blew my mind.
The SAVE Act has nothing to do with voter ID. They keep saying it's a voter ID law. No, it's not a voter ID. You bring ID with you when you go vote, which exists in a lot of states. That's not what this is. This says you've got to prove that you're a U.S. citizen. So you start with your driver's license, but now you've got to show that your driver's license matches your birth certificate, which it does not for 69 million American women who have names. So they've got to show their passport, but 50% of Americans don't even have a. So this is a direct assault on the 19th Amendment and the right of women to vote. The SAVE Act has nothing to do with.
It's a whole angle. Jamie Raskin's whole angle on it. Women who've been married won't be able to vote because they will not be able to pass. As if women don't go and get their IDs updated. It's the most ridiculous argument on the planet. The bill specifically directs the Election Assistance Commission to provide guidance for states to handle applicants who lack specific documents. Now, remember, the SAVE Act is just saying you're going to go up, you're going to prove when you register to vote that you're an American citizen. And then when you go to vote, you're going to bring your ID. That's it. So it's not hard when you go to register to vote to bring your marriage license and your birth certificate. Believe it or not, they'll be able to figure it out. I'm not even going to get into the whole you need an ID to do 45 billion things every single day in your life. That's just the way it is. That's a reality. Okay. This argument here was to try to outrage women. Oh my God, I won't be able to vote if they no. And women aren't that stupid, which is why the SAVE Act has an approval of 60 to 70% in this country in modern day history. So if you want to talk about undermining democracy, as both Jamie Raskin and Chuck Schumer did, let's think about election denial from the left that has been thrown all the year that this would fix. This would actually fix. Yeah, we do have Real ID, Jersey Joe. And Thomas Jordan, no, if you want to start your own show, or if you want to come back in a week, I'm talking about that, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate the $4.99, but I'm not going to change my whole show because you're complaining in the chat room. Okay. There's a lot of other things that people highly approve on that Trump's doing that his overall approval rating may not reflect, but that's up to you. Oh, of course. Yeah, Thomas, it's funny. When I create my show and I do all my studies and everything, and I get all my notes and I'm presenting all the information, then all of a sudden you want me to change the show to what you want to talk about? No, that's not how it works. That's not real life, son. This isn't your show. Hillary Clinton back in 2019 said, you can run the best campaign. You can have the election stolen from you. She repeated it numerous times, calling Trump illegitimate. Hakeem Jeffries in 2018 tweeted the 2016 election became more illegitimate the more we learned about it. And he used the hashtag fake president. Stacey Abrams refused to concede in 2018 the Georgia gubernatorial election for years, claiming that it was stolen. And Jerry Nadler stood on the House floor and claimed in 2004 that the 2004 election was stolen from qualified voters in Ohio. As I said before, I talked about some of the polls from CNN. This is from February, so this is a recent poll. 83% of Americans require a photo ID to vote. 71% of Democrats agree with the measure. 76% of Black voters and 82% of Latino voters want these integrity measures as well. So for Jamie Raskin and Chuck Schumer to cry, women won't be able to vote, and it's Jim Crow 2.0, what they're saying to the majority of people is you're too stupid to know what's good for you, and we know better. Despite the fact that the Democrats have cried many a times about securing our elections and making sure that our elections were secure. And now that we're trying to do it, they all of a sudden it's not a good thing. And once again, they want the headlines. They don't want you to look into the bill. They don't want you to look into the numbers. They don't want you to see who supports it and who doesn't. All they want to do is say, oh, if you support this, Black people won't be able to vote, women won't be able to vote, and get everyone outraged, because they know most people aren't going to dig down deep and actually look at the information that's so readily fucking available on the internet. All you have to do is look something up a couple times and verify that it's reflected in 2 or 3 different places by the same. Then you absolutely can verify that it's true. And then you go to the source document, something we say on SHR Media all the time. We have a shirt, 250 reasons to read source documents. That's our 250th birthday shirt that we're selling. You go to shrmedia.com if you actually want one. But yeah, read the bill, read the source documents. If you want to compare 2 different things, there's so many options for AI to help you do it, so you don't have to read a 4,000-page bill. But they're going to do exactly what Jordan's trying to do in the chat room. They're going to throw out a bombshell statement. They're going to expect people to take that at face value. And then they're going to needle down to certain points here and there. And they're going to have you want to talk about the conversation that they want to have versus the conversation that's actually being had. So we saw that with Tulsi. We saw that with the SAVE Act. We saw that. We saw a bunch with ICE. The whole ICE thing was absolutely fueled by this. And how many people from outside this country, like we said, foreign bots, were just reposting that stuff, and how many people would run with it. And it's because people don't want to look beyond the headline, which is very easy to do when you have, everyone's got one of these in their pocket. They get a cell phone. You can go look stuff up. You can do it in 30 seconds or less, no questions asked. And people will not do it. And it's sad, because if you looked a little bit further, you could be a little bit more educated. You could be a little bit more intelligent. And you won't look as stupid as you do in public. We'll be back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this, you rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. Carrygirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty Radio and the SHR Media Network. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I am going to go international, talk about some news outside the States, but I thought this one was very, very interesting. Thomas Massie has been a weird beast. Has been for a while now. He's getting even more and more weird as time goes on. But he tried to say today that I never said I have 20 names, when clearly he posted that he had 20 names that were in the Epstein file. And Joe mentioned this earlier. He does like edging to fundraise, and I mean that like as the kids use the term edging, where he constantly tries to tell over and over again, I have this, I'm gonna do it, and he never ever does. So first I want to go to Italy, which if you would have told me that the biggest news this week out of Italy was going to be something other than the Olympics, I'd have called you a liar, because I just look, that's the biggest thing that was going on in Italy up until this. And when I first saw this, and the first thing came to mind was the movie Heat. But the second thing that came to mind is that they were filming a new version of the movie Heat, because it's just incredible. And hold on, give me 30 seconds to scroll down to the video. I had it here somewhere, and then as always, my fat fingers got me out of sorts. Clicked something that I shouldn't have, and welcome to my whole entire life, folks. Here it is. I'm going to put a video, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what's known about it so far, because there's not a lot that's actually known per se.
Guarda, hanno rubato il furgone. Guarda, Cristo santo, hanno fatto scoppiare in diretta. Guardali.
Incredible. Absolutely.
Guardali, porca puttana.
So essentially what happened, and again, this is information because this just occurred, I think it was yesterday, on the Italian State Road 613 in southern Italy's Puglia region. And apparently it was as you could see, it was a war zone. It wasn't just like a smash and grab. 6 and 10 masked robbers used vehicles equipped with flashing blue lights to impersonate law enforcement and forced an armored vehicle to stop. Once they trapped the van and blocked law enforcement, they set up multiple vehicles across the freeway so more cops couldn't show up to help. They showed them using an explosive, as you saw, to blast the armored vehicle. It sent it airborne. If you saw the explosion, it was ridiculous. And I have no idea how this works, so don't ask me. But apparently there was some sort of phone-based security system that triggered inside the van, and that kept whatever was in the van protected. When the police arrived, a massive firefight erupted. The suspects scattered caltrops across the road, the metal spikes that flattened police tires. A bunch of escape of 2 people are currently in custody. That's absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe when I first saw that was a real thing, but here we are. Next, going over to Iran. I'll talk about this briefly. Where obviously we're all on standby. The armada that's out in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East is huge right now. I know they're having meetings and they're talking with Iran. Iran does not want to play ball. I was convinced that when I came on the air tonight that I'd be talking only about Iran, just how close it feels like it is to taking place. We've moved a ton of assets into the region. We've moved air defense into the region. I don't know what else. Obviously, nobody knows what else. There's a whole bunch of speculation. We've landed in Armenia a few times and brought equipment in there. There's been C-17s and C-5s and everything crossing the ocean nonstop for the last week. I know there was a meeting in Oman today. It clearly did not result in anything. The 4 conditions apparently the U.S. is looking for out of all this is all nuclear related. Stop enhancing their system. Because clearly these people who are running Iran, the Ayatollahs, are all batshit crazy. And we all know that. It's not a shock whatsoever. And Iran's making all the threats. And look, Iran's not going to do anything. They're so limited in their abilities. It's not even funny. A lot of this is just being a peacock, a disco chicken, as the kids call it, on the world stage. And I really hoped that somebody inside that regime was going to be smart enough to be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't keep being an asshole, but here we are. So it's only a matter of time, I think, at this point, unless they turn around and really start being smart. And first and foremost, stop killing all the protesters. I mean, that would be a great start, not murder thousands upon thousands of people who are protesting you, but also actually have a legitimate conversation and concessions, and stop selling oil to China and Russia, because they're not supposed to be doing that as well. And they are, which is why another tanker from the Russian Shadow Fleet was seized today that was sending oil from Venezuela over to China. So that whole thing is still going on. It's all tied together. At the end of the day, it is to hurt Russia, it is to hurt China, and it is also to change the regime in Iran. Whether you're for it, whether you're against it, that's the goal. Because the people there have had enough, the region's had enough, the world's had enough, and at some point you gotta make a change. And the people there want the change now. And that should be the motivating thing, is that you're helping those people out. And then just like in Venezuela, you're also making progress. And remember, the Iranian regime are not good people. They've slaughtered thousands of people outside their borders. They've sponsored more terrorism than any other country. And they're currently giving arms to Russia for its fight with Ukraine. So we'll see. Like I said, I was convinced today when I came on the air that something would have happened. And it hasn't. Now I want to go over to Japan. So Prime Minister Takaishi, if I say that wrong, I apologize, was elected Japan's first leader just a few months ago. She's an ultra-conservative. Essentially, Japan started to really loosen their border and who they were allowing into the country. And the Japanese people had enough really fast, like really fast. And they snap voted far, far to the right compared to where they were on the left. And the prime minister was elected. And then they had a snap election today for their parliament, or their version of Congress, if you will. But her party, the LDP, secured 316 seats, which broke all records in Japan, and they now held a supermajority with 352 seats total. She ran on a strong and prosperous Japan, kind of a Japan first model. That's kind of what she ran with. She said she was going to ditch the liberal shifts in the last few years. She was going to grow the military, Even though they have a pacifist constitution, they're going to build a military capable of deterring China, which you've seen China. You've seen what China's ambitions are. That's not a bad idea if you're the president of Japan. And if you've never looked up Chinese and Japanese history, there is a history going on there. This was incredible because after all this news came out, and you had the vote for Takashi, then you had the parliamentary vote today, or this week rather, where she won a super majority from the voters and the people. Sky News decided they were going to run this on their headline. And this headline reads, breaking, Japan's ultra-conservative prime minister is set to seize more power after an exit poll had her securing a big majority in the lower house. In which there's a user note essentially saying, how can you use the word seize where she just won an election and then took power with her party by what she wanted to do? She didn't seize power. She was elected appropriately. But this goes back to my theme for the whole show, that the media has this tendency to run these misleading headlines. Politicians have a tendency to run these misleading quotes and misleading tweets, and they constantly try to change the narrative to what they want it to be and not what it actually is, which is why media in this country and beyond has a lower approval ratings than herpes, because the media has a tendency to sell bullshit for a living. Sky News proved that with that thing. Seize power. Think about what that says to the people around the world. She seized power. We see that with military coups. We see that with other coups, non-military coups. But it's incredible to me that in this day and age, after WAPO just laid off, 300 people because of what media has become and nobody's buying into it anymore. You can like it or not, but that's the reality. Mainstream media is taking it on the face, and they're doing it a lot and with big numbers. Well, the opposite of big numbers, small numbers, I guess is the way to say it, but they're getting hammered. They're losing a lot of money. It was funny to me that Bernie, when the WAPO layoffs were announced, Bernie said, Bezos has this and he's got this boat and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, except for he was running a shitty news outlet that was reporting one-sided news, and people got sick and tired of it. People get sick and tired of the one-sided narrative. And what we see on social media is not a reflection of what the rest of the country sees. I tell people that all the time. When you're in social media, you're in an echo chamber. And yeah, I get caught in the echo chamber sometimes too. We all do. It's human nature. But you need to look beyond what you're being shown in a tweet, in a post, in a 30-second clip, because Jamie Raskin decided to go on CNN and say a bunch of bullshit, and they know they won't get challenged. And that's what happened with WAPO that led to 300 people, and Sky News did it today. What I did not know, so as I was researching, this is completely ridiculous anyways, but I'm going to share it with you because it just kind of blew my mind. Prime Minister Takashi back in the day used to be a little bit of a baddie. Apparently, she was all about the rock music scene, and she was all about motorcycles when she was young. I didn't know that. I read a lot about her, obviously, when she was getting elected. And when Trump went over there and he had a meeting with her, I learned all about her policies. I learned all about her politics and her political history. I did not know she was a motorcycle riding, drumming, rock and roll gal. And it just made me respect her even more for everything that she's done, because I think that's kind of awesome. What do we have here? 6 minutes left. And of course, she has been nothing but gracious with President Trump. Another story that internationally, this one much closer to home, is Cuba. Mexico announced today, apparently, that they're going to stop sending oil to Cuba. Cuba has been a pariah state. Everyone knows that Cuba is Cuba, right? It's run by communists. It's been failing for years. People are trying to blame the U.S. sanctions on Cuba's downfall and not at all hold the Cuban government responsible for their actions. It's not like we don't sanction countries all over the world, and other countries sanction other countries all over the world. It's a very normal thing. It's what people do when you have a country who's not acting appropriately. Well, on the heels of Mexico saying that they're not selling them oil, Air Canada suspends Cuban service in response to aviation fuel shortage. And this is out of Montreal. This was open source intel that put this out from the Montreal Globe Newswire. Air Canada said that effective today is suspending its service to Cuba due to its ongoing shortage of aviation fuel in the island. Over the following days, the airline will operate empty flights southbound to pick up approximately 3,000 customers already at the destination to return them home. AM Canada took the decision following advisories issued by governments regarding an unreliability of the aviation fuel at the Cuban airports. It is projected that as of February 10th, aviation fuel will not be commercially available on the island's airports for remaining flights. Air Canada will tanker in extra fuel and make technical stops as necessary to refuel in the journey. Air Canada will continue to monitor the situation. So yeah, things aren't going well for Cuba right now. And look, Cuba's had plenty of chance through the years to change course, and the regime there just won't. And they get Russian, and they had Venezuela support as a stranglehold on those people. What people forget is prior to Castro coming to power, and Che Guevara, who the left still to this day wears the t-shirts like he wasn't killing gay people and a whole bunch of other people on a regular basis. Prior to that, Cuba was one of the biggest vacation destinations for the United States of America. It's a beautiful island. The people are wonderful. It's just the government is absolutely garbage. Yeah, I got time for one more story. Saw this story, and Jenny Tier, who is over at the Daily Wire, she's the immigration reporter. She reported this, and this kind of it's something that we talk about our border, and everybody talks about the illegals in this country, and you know how we should have more open borders and be more porous and blah 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 blah. By the way, we had the lowest percentage this last month of people crossing the border or being released into the country. But there's a story that she wrote that a registered sex offender paid smugglers to bring a child across the border from Honduras. There's the article right there. And was stopped from taking the young girl into his care thanks to the crackdown on sponsorship programs and unaccompanied alien children. According to the court documents, the child, who made the journey with her mother but was separated before crossing, was rescued before she ended up in the hands of the Alaska man named Doug Price, a registered sex offender who has a long rap sheet. Price paid roughly $5,000 to fund the mother and daughter's dangerous journey to the border through payments from his business, Black Bear Construction. He allegedly sent the funds to a phone number provided by the smugglers. Price also sent photos of himself to the mother and inquired about her daughter's quote-unquote status. This is another, and look, you never get caught your first time. And maybe not with this specific scumbag, Doug Price. But if they're getting caught for it, that means it's happened probably a lot of other times before. We said I worked in law enforcement for a long time. Most people don't get caught the first time out, and most scams don't get caught the first time out. Usually it has to happen for a while before people can pick up on it. And it does make you wonder, out of those, 300,000 children that went missing under Biden, how many of them ended up in a situation like that girl was almost in? So when we talk about the borders, when we talk about securing our homeland, there's more reasons than just making sure that illegals aren't here. It's also the child and sex trafficking that we knew was going on. And hopefully now that girl is at least back home and not in a monster's hands. Folks, that's going to do it for me here on the Edge of Liberty and the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you to everyone who showed up and chatted, even those who don't like me. I appreciate you being there. Thank you to our moderators for maintaining the chat room. I appreciate it. Thank you to the 1,000 subscribers. Honestly, folks, from the bottom of my heart, been doing this for a long time. We took a break on YouTube because the algorithm was just crushing us for a couple of years, and it's nice to actually be able to make some progress there. So thank you so much for sticking with us. Thank you so much for supporting us. It does mean the world to us. Please like and subscribe the channel. It really does help us out. The algorithm has not completely loosened up. It's still not entirely great, but it's a little bit better than it used to be. Check us out, shrmedia.com. You can follow me on X, the number 2, Against Tyranny. Please like all of our other shows and check them out every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have the bulbous one, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. And Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Man with my pal Big E. And of course, you can find me every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you to KLRN Radio for simulcasting us and supporting us as well. We greatly appreciate you guys over there. Have a great night. I'll talk to you Wednesday.